everyone! So it's finally time to talk about how my reading in 2016 went in general and what my favorite reads of the year were. At the beginning of 2016, my main goals were to read more books on my shelves and to continue reading diversely, and I was not planning on doing a Goodreads challenge because I thought I was going to be very busy. And for most of the year, I was. But then I got a new job and now I just work part-time, so I ended up having more time, and it's a job that lends itself easily to reading more and being around books more. So by the end of the year, I did set a challenge, and I think I started it at 50 and then bumped it up to 60 and then 70, and I ended up reading 76 books. And I started off well reading books on my shelves. I had set some aside that I knew I wanted to read, and I read a few of them in the beginning of the year, and then around February and March it just kind of slid into unsuccessfulness. And then in June I got the new job and was working both jobs at once, which was like 50 or 60 hours a week. So reading plans just kind of went out the door. And looking at what I actually ended up reading in 2016, most of it was new books that I acquired and ebooks and library books. There were a couple borrowed books from family members in there, but not many books actually from my shelves. So that problem carries over into 2017, and that's why I made the video about reading big books this year that you can go watch to find out more about that plan. I was successful in continuing to read diversely. I crunched some numbers a little bit and saw that in 2014, before I really began to focus on reading diversely, I read about 15% diverse books. And most of that is due to the fact that I read almost everything that Sherman Alexie has ever written. And then in 2015, I read 20% diverse books, which was 5% more than the previous year. In 2016, I read a lot more books than 2015, and the overall diverse percentage is a little lower than 20% at 18.4%. But if you don't include the 12 cookbooks that I read that don't really count because I didn't spend much time with them, the overall percentage is 23% diverse books. So I'd like to continue reading at around that rate, if not at least improving it. But I do feel pretty happy with how that went in 2016. So on to my favorite reads of the year. These are just books that I read in 2016, not necessarily released that year, and they're just in the order that I read them. And they're not all new favorite all-time books, but they were either just really enjoyable experiences or very impactful experiences. And I don't have a round number of 10 or 15, I just think I have around 12 or so. So first on the list is both Voyager and Drums of Autumn, the third and fourth book in the Outlander series. This is a series that I'm borrowing from my mom, and I'm also watching the TV show while trying to keep ahead in the books. And I have really been enjoying them. They're big books, but they go fast, and I do just really love them. Next on the list is Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel, and this is on my all-time favorite books list now because I really loved it, and I have already seen the movie years ago, but I just adored this book. After that is The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaefer and Annie Barrows. And this was another book that I just really loved and adored, and was a really great reading experience. And I lent it to my mom afterwards, and she also really loved it. After that is Kindred by Octavia Butler, and it is one of those books that is more a very impactful reading experience, and is one of those books that's just really important to read considering her importance in her genre. especially as a Black woman. But not just because it's an important book. I absolutely did enjoy it, and it was a very amazing reading experience. Next, I have the 2 books I read by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and that is The Secret Garden, which was a reread, but the first time reading in this illustrated edition, and it was an incredibly magical experience. I read it in the spring when the trees were blossoming and the birds were chirping, and with gorgeous layouts like this, how could you not just love the book? Then is A Little Princess, which was another favorite movie growing up, and my first time reading this book, and it was just really cute and adorable and inspiring, and I really liked the message it has that a princess is not some quaint, cute, little, vulnerable, perfect girl. It's someone who is very generous towards her peers and is optimistic about life and sees the good in everything and everyone. After that, my next favorite was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I was a little behind in getting to this book since everyone on BookTube was reading this a few years ago, but I finally got to it and I really enjoyed it. It was just super fun and I really enjoyed being inside that world. And I don't think it was overrated, but I don't know if I expected it to read like a YA book, because it kind of did, and I thought it was going to be a little bit more adult, but regardless, I still really enjoyed it. Next is Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. As I've mentioned recently, this is just a guaranteed love for me. I just really love that it combines 2 of my favorite things, which is reading and art. And especially with this book, it features a museum, and museums really fascinate me, and I've had a lot of experience going to a couple different museums, so it was a really enjoyable experience for me personally. Next is Monstrous Volume 1. I also talked about this one in my last video, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, and there's no way that I would rate this less than 5 stars because of the illustrations and the storyline and the badassery of all of the characters. Next is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. This book just really stuck with me and kind of haunted me, even though it's not a ghost story. The book itself is just really haunting, and it was just a creeptastic, fascinating experience. Next on my list is An Untamed State by Roxane Gay, and like Kindred, this was a more heavy reading experience, but still just really good. Just hands down an incredible reading experience. And it's books like this that, while aren't happy making, are still so incredibly important to our culture and important to witness and listen to. And last on my list is The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. I kind of compare my reading experience with this to The Secret Garden because I read The Snow Child in winter while snow was falling and it was super cold, and that plays really heavily in the plot of the book as well as the setting, of course, and so it just ended up being a really magical experience. I do have her second book, so hopefully I'll read that this upcoming winter. So there you have it. Those were the books that I rated the best and enjoyed the most and was impacted the most by in 2016. I definitely for sure recommend all of them, and if you have any suggestions based on these for what you think I might like, then feel free to share, and definitely let me know what your favorite books of 2016 were. As a side note, I just started using the big spreadsheet that I think his name is Brock puts out and is contributed to by a lot of wonderful people, and I'm really excited because it gives you graphs and summaries of all kinds of different stats as you go throughout the year. So I'm really excited to include that in my 2017 wrap-up in a year from now, and I will link to that down below too if that interests you. So that is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.